And I always say that these policies and legal frameworks are just there. They are frameworks. So all institutions are expected to pick it up and make it their own. You do not expect that when a framework is there, you do not take it to actually let it suit what you do in your area. It will be beneficial to you. So it has worked in as far as we pick it up in our various legislations and also carve out our laws from it. And so for civil society, for private sector, for those in government, it is expected that once the overarching policy is given, you also have your own institutional specific policies out of that one. And that is the only way it can work for the women that you serve. In that, when the national gender policy is there and as an institution, you do not carve out your own institutional gender action plan from it. The institution might have a different perspective based on the number of women and the background that they have. And so once you pick it and then you let it suit the women that you are working for, that is the only way we can say it's been effective and it's working for us. So I would say yes, because the framework has been given, but the onus lies on us as a people that we also try as much as possible to take it to suit what we are doing in our various institutions and our setups. That is the only way it can fully work. So to a larger extent, it has worked, but there's still much more work to be done in the areas of us also translating the framework into guidelines or specific actions that can inure to the benefit of the women we serve. And so when you take projects like, for instance, WEACT, the women are the grassroots. Someone will say they might not even know about the policy, indeed. And so for the framers of those who put together the projects, they have to look at what the policy seeks to achieve on women's economic empowerment, and then carve out activities in that project to really solve that problem. So that's how we take it, and we are all there.
Vera has said, I dare say it is more about the adequacy and the functionality of the existing laws that we have. And by that I mean, to what extent do the laws that we have scope as far as covering all the areas and the issues, that must be addressed as far as women's economic participation is concerned? To what extent are these laws even known, the provisions within these laws or legal frameworks known and are clear, and for women and the general populace to even know the kind of rights, legal rights that they have under the law as far as women's economic participation and economic security are concerned. I also say, to what extent are the laws practical enough, to be implemented and accessible, the legal processes, for asserting the rights, legal rights that are in these legal frameworks, to what extent are they accessible, to women? So it's not really about the absence of laws. For instance, you take the labor law, portions of its aims to create an enabling environment for women to participate effectively in the workplace. But to what extent does it have scope to really address, workplace discrimination against women? How are these provisions being effectively implemented? We still have issues of sexual harassment in the workplace that are not reported. We still have issues of recruitment, gender biases in recruitment. We have issues of unequal promotion as far as women are concerned in the workplace. We have issues of wage gap, in the workplace, and a whole lot. So to what extent the laws that we currently have, I do admit that there are some areas that still have to be legislated to promote or advance women's economic security. But the ones that we have currently, to what extent do they address some of these gaps And I think these are some of the things that the WEACT project, was designed to contribute to addressing. And in terms of, I think I'll end it here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a little correction. My name was not properly pronounced. I have the sweetest name in the country.
Please.
Seth Goguego. Yes, Seth Goguego. Most people mistake that Goguego as one name, but it's not. Okay. Yeah, I'm from Viamo, from technology. Yes, I am agreeing with all that they are saying. In order to break these barriers, it has to be an inclusive approach. We have laws, but how many of these women, or to a large extent, the men, how many of them are aware of these laws? And how do we intentionally include them? Because one of the things that I notice that is usually missing from most gender-centric implementation is the inclusion of the men in the design implementation. Because if you want to make this work, you need to bring them on board and then help them to understand that the program is actually going to benefit them. They shouldn't feel as if they are taking from them. So more needs to be done in ensuring that awareness is created. We bring all the key stakeholders on board, and in that regard, we'll be able to accelerate the program that we have and make sure that it's making the desired impact that we are looking forward to. Thank you.
Since I grew up, powers have been given to the men from their infants to this stage, but through WEACT projects, we women too have been empowered. So as for me, I will not include men because always they've been bringing us down. Yes, they will be coming us down. If you want to even, if there is something you want to voice you want to bring your opinion, they will shout, "Hey, shut up! Are you a man? Man kasa."
Auntie Krista, na some say. And you say a man and be share a man so. Then yen na omo ba be boye na yen na ya dwen ho say media ya dey bani ya be ya ne sen. Enti anya say ya be share there be. Adwumade ni ye oba no wodie. Then say bema na owo fie no so ti ase say adwuma na aba fie no ono so ewo chefa bia say oye de boa wo ba no say da be abetumi aye enti say oba no ekọ krom ana say oba no ekọ
Sadia me boa me de ne be kan
Krista. Thank you so much, Krista. So all that Krista is.
And so for that one, probably, and in fact, the all can no crest, and as I say, Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection in the past, and Kofoka said, once I'm now moving in a mostly gender, and so yasha, a man kwan and some the form. And so yes, say the young say you also need to bring the men on board. Said the it will have a whole framework for engaging men and boys. A whole framework. So if you want to achieve gender equality, there is a need to consider that you are bringing on board the issues of men and boys. It's says they all can be more bias and not just on said the name, the assessor or Yadeba or Bantin or Betty and then so the neighbor no so said then we can all be working together and no lebeboa. It's your crown, it's a assessor said the air near man, the member no name of fra and member nina aka home preko.
Okay.
Alima Abakare. And she's a banana gender mango. Ambition through so. Was an appointment from control science and Jamana Banyan Navichi, and a machina everybody. Banyan Banchana, the future Fiaka, Kalakanya, Nase, Banyana. So, Nenia, Kinishibuna Cabana, and lay gender model Elvina. So, Macaba, but in the Tinina. Ne ayo aka yo kan say aya wubura assemblyman din pema na gama chana na salo muku nyina ngina muku te fa ne ene ara ka daga ne anyan ne che baba abribare na abrso npa mo so jema na kwafra sha ka bo na fanyam mproba nko na fodo of manye ku bo da e che malam man na me sha ku bo binyar ko na menye ba mel kam no flavor ba tala fo kontona e che ko kwana jegana so ne yare ka mbe ko yolgan sanye ne amba banyan ba ka fia so fa na she ko fo yona kana ko ya ka parfo e malgana bolu kufu da ka jan kwar banyan ba ku bon an bar bare
to asan kushunga so she in answering the question she mentioned that previously it was something that was very difficult for the women to even participate in decision making in the midst of men. But due to this particular intervention, currently as we speak, they are now able to engage the men in whatever decision they want to take. However, she also added that the approach that they have employed, they as LLVs in the community, is that after going through the LLV training, what they did was that they engaged all the traditional leaders and opinion leaders in the community to kind of understand and also educate them to understand the concept of the LLV and making them understand that this is not something that is going to, limit the power of the men in the community, so that they will stand to embrace this particular, concept that they are bringing on board. She added that currently as we speak, it is not a difficult task to kind of demand that you want to have a parcel of land to yourself, to either build a house for yourself or to also even engage in other agricultural, activities. And so she mentioned that this is the approach that they have employed, they as LLVs in Larbanga, and it is working perfectly for them. Thank you.
Well, I think that your answer is the response is even embedded in the question. That these cultural norms, societal norms, are either the cause or the drivers of these barriers and discrimination against women. I think that she did speak to the fact that in the past, women, they are not even allowed, to contribute or speak or be part of the decision making processes. And these are all structures. As all of these things are part of us, they are part of our value system that we grow up with and we have internalized. And so that is how some of these things, either cause or anchor or drive some of these barriers. We have internalized these things. And so for most of us, women who try to break away from that, we consider them as, being out of the norm, or, we consider them as rebels and things like that. It is the same norms that cause or drive violence against women in the workplace, and for that matter, within the value chains that the project was designed around. We worked with the cooperatives, the LLVs. The LLV is they are the legal literacy volunteers. They are part of the cooperatives, the share cooperatives and the cocoa cooperatives. And so because of these value systems that consider women's place as being different, from the workplace, from the value chain, it makes it difficult for them to be part of the decision-making process within the cooperatives. Ask, for instance, maybe before the WEACT project, how many of them who are women within the cooperatives are part of the leadership, were part of the leadership of the cooperatives? Again, in terms of even decision over how monies or funds they generate, from their share or cocoa produce, what kind of decision-making process goes on. In the past, did they have control over how those monies are spent or were spent, and the whole others? Were they even able to negotiate, as women within the cooperatives in terms of business without the need for them to bring a male, a partner who is a male, a husband, to the table before they are recognized or given a seat, at the negotiation table. So these, are about some of the norms, and how they influenced women's participation, and I'll say within the share and the cocoa value chains.
Some of these barriers, if you have some examples you can share.
Well, thank you. I would say that the surest way to achieve that is to continue using the gender model family model, which is as was shared by a lot of the beneficiaries of the project, something that they do every day in the household, and so they can really relate to that. In the past, why would the man be the one maybe taking care of the baby as the woman is taking some leisure? It will never happen. But then when they see the need for them to also support, then it helps very much. It's more than just taking things abstract and then talking to them about this is how they live their lives. And so you take what they are able to identify with and then you change the status quo with that. I'm sure that is really helpful because unpaid care work is such that it doesn't even only affect women in their communities. Even career women at the south or in urban areas are also experiencing the same. That probably when there's a mother and a father and then the child is sick, it will be the responsibility of the mother to rather stay home and take care of the child whilst both of them go to work and then look after the family. But naturally, it will be expected of the woman to be the one to stay home. But it might even be that for the case of that kind of work that the man does, it is even better for him to stay home and take care of the child. And so once that understanding is created among the family, that these are things that nobody will come from elsewhere to come and tell you how to go about it. But it depends on how we have discourse around it to decide how best we have to do it in our family so that it can help the family to thrive. It can help for both mother and father to be healthy, to be able to take care of their children, for our family to be in good standing. And so for me, these are practical examples that the WEACT project has brought to the communities that even those who are not part of the project from experience and from what we hear as committee members are even asking for these to be extended to their communities. And so we cannot have a better example than to use this gender model family structure that is already working with various homes in the communities where the project was implemented. Replicate this in other communities so that within your household, how are the household chores shared? You have to rethink of how to redistribute, how to make sure everybody is involved so that it can give some leisure to everyone so that everybody can also feel part of the productive economy. I think that is the way to go, and we can only urge other projects, or if Global Affairs Canada will be kind enough to extend this project to other communities.
1 minute.
Thank you. For me, the successful completion of this project will just let us know that we need to replicate what has been done in other communities. The various aspects that they touch with this project, being it the legal aspect, talking about the gender family model system and all the other components of this project, it just goes without saying that we have to replicate this in other communities for them to also benefit from this laudable initiative. And so for me, if there's a way out or other projects can look into the success stories of these ones, and then let's see how we can replicate this in other communities. There may be challenges, and it's a good platform for us to learn from what the challenges of this project were, so that as we also roll it out in other communities, we can correct those wrongs. So that is what I would say. Thank you.
A minute.
Replicating them is very important. And then from our perspective, I think the next stage will also be to include element of financial planning, because once women are getting access to this economic, opportunities, there should be a way to be able to plan this, especially when it comes to savings and being sure that, for example, if you are using mobile money, you are not susceptible to fraud. I mean, these kind of things need to also be considered. From us at Viamo, one of the things that we are doing right now as part of the sustainability of this project is hosting some of the legal content on our 3-to-1 platform. Because as we say, knowledge is power. So anyone on the Vodafone network, now Telecom, 3-to-1 can get access to a host of information. And of course, we are currently wrapping up making this available on MTN as well. So that'll be my recommendation. Thank you very much.
Long-term impact.
For long term, I think that as I said at the beginning, we do have a lot of laws currently. The big one recently was the passage of the Affirmative Action Gender Equity Act, which aims to ensure that women are represented in all sectors, of the economy. And so it is important that we prioritize the popularization of that act and also hold government, including the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, accountable to its effective implementation. As well, we need to prioritize the Land Act. The Land Act also was passed in the year 2020. It's also fairly new. It guarantees land rights for spouses and women, for that matter. Again, we need to prioritize and popularize it, make sure that our women know, the legal rights that they have in these legal instruments. There are others that are currently being worked on as far as amendments are concerned. The Interstate Succession Amendment Act, for example, is also there. That helps spouses whose partners die without leaving behind a will, and facilitates their access to properties. And so these are but a few of the legal instruments that I think should be prioritized to ensure that our women, participate effectively in the economic sector, and then their economic security is guaranteed. Thank you.